Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. November 6th, 2017.
2:05 here on the great WRKO. Okay, at 2:35, you don't want to miss this. You are not going to believe what Massachusetts legislators have now decided. You're not going to believe it. I'm not even going to say it, because if I said it, I'm telling you, you wouldn't believe me. So you gotta hear it to believe it. So we're going to have that at 2:35. Also, big local elections tomorrow. If you live in a lot of towns and cities across Massachusetts, very important elections being held, especially regarding sanctuary cities, illegal immigration. So we're going to give you the latest update later this hour. But first, it's time for Trump to pull the proverbial trigger. It's time for the president now to fire Robert Mueller. Why do I say this? Because NBC is now reporting that Mueller is now on the offensive. And after indicting Paul Manafort and his business associate, he is now, or at least his investigators are leaking to the liberal media, that they now have more than enough evidence to indict former National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn and his son. So expect within the next couple of days for another major indictment to come down from Mueller's office, this time on General Flynn and on his son. Now, many of you are going to be rightfully saying to me, Jeff, well, if Mueller's got the goods, what are you so afraid of? Let the chips fall where they may. He's going to go after Mike Flynn, not on Russia, but on Turkey. I swear to you, Turkey. So apparently now Mueller, or at least his investigators, are claiming that they found evidence that Mike Flynn, over the years, has been acting as essentially a lobbyist for the Turkish government, now strongman, he's an authoritarian dictator, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And that apparently he may have money laundered millions of dollars from the Erdogan government, and apparently was using Turkish influence to try to orchestrate the removal of one of Erdogan's top rivals, a Muslim cleric who lives currently in America. And so because he was taking Turkish money in an attempt to influence the State Department, by the way, this is all before Trump, okay, way before Trump, that he was trying to do this, that this obviously involves bribery, influence peddling, lying to federal agents. They've got a whole litany of charges against Michael Flynn and his son, who I guess was part of a lobbying group with his father. Mueller's going to go after the general, and he's going to go after his son. Now, Flynn may be guilty. Maybe he did take millions of dollars from Erdogan. Maybe he did launder the money. Maybe he did lie to federal agents. Maybe he was being bribed. Nothing would surprise me because, as I've said, Washington is a brothel. It's a whorehouse. It's a giant, massive bordello. It's a huge whorehouse. Everybody is for sale. Everybody's being bought and paid for. Okay, it's the swamp. But what does Turkey have to do with Russia? In other words, just like Paul Manafort, he's going after people who had some ties, ancillary secondary ties to Trump, but it has nothing to do with Russia, nothing to do with Putin, nothing to do with Russian interference or meddling in the election. It is nothing more than one massive, giant fishing expedition. Indict people for the sake of indicting people. And what is to me most hypocritical of all, and what I think is really disgusting. Look, I don't care for Paul Manafort. I don't care for General Mike Flynn. I would never take foreign money, certainly not from Islamic Turkey, certainly not from that butcher Erdogan. who is Islamicizing Turkey and turning it into a Muslim fundamentalist state. Okay, by the way, why Turkey is still in NATO is beyond me. I would kick Turkey out of NATO so fast your head would spin. But let that go. Let that go. If you're good, to me, I go back to the whorehouse analogy. To me, it's blatantly hypocritical and unfair to go into a massive whorehouse and say, well, I'm going to get her for whoring and I'm going to get him for whoring when everybody in there is whoring. So it's selective justice. It's cherry picking. He's only going after Manafort to try to flip Manafort. He's now only going after Flynn to try to flip Flynn. And in particular, he's going after Flynn's son for his ties to the Turkish government to put maximum pressure on the general so he doesn't want to see his son go to jail. So he's trying to use the fact that he's going to go after his son to maybe get Flynn to roll on Trump. That's what this is all about. It's about exerting massive leverage to try to get Flynn to eventually flip on Trump. But in terms of the evidence, there is nothing there. Nothing. This is at its core a witch hunt, a partisan political witch hunt. And rather than issuing indictments, the guy that should be indicted is Mueller himself. And what I'm recommending to the president is very simple. We need a special counsel, a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary's Uranium One bribery scheme. To go after her, go after Bill Clinton, go after Eric Holder, go after Loretta Lynch, go after Robert Mueller, who as head of the FBI knew about all of this bribery, kickbacks, extortion, and racketeering, and not only did nothing and turned a blind eye, but in fact gave his own approval to the Russian purchase of Uranium One. He's as guilty as sin. And he's the one issuing indictments? Are you kidding me? That's like empowering a gangster to go after the gangsters. That's like empowering a mobster to go after the mafia, the mob. We have the criminals investigating themselves. And I've got to say this, but it's time for Sleepy Jeff Sessions to go. It's time for Sleepy Sessions to go. Nice guy, great senator, great on the issues, but man, we need a cowboy in there. We need somebody who's going to take it to Hillary Clinton, start indicting people, set up a special counsel, and take the fight to the enemy. He has been AWOL on Hillary, AWOL on Mueller, AWOL on Uranium One, and if he's not up to the job, I think it's time for Trump to say, you know what, you've basically now had a year. Jeff, nice guy, this job is just not for you. We need somebody who's going to crack heads. We need somebody who's going to expose the Clinton crime syndicate. And speaking of exposing the Clinton crime syndicate, Donna Brazile has now spilled the beans. And in her latest book, as I touched on this on Friday, she now completely exposes how she, as the interim former chair of the Democratic National Committee, personally saw and witnessed how Hillary Clinton, through their headquarters in Brooklyn, bought the entire Democratic Party. They bought the Democratic National Committee. They took control of all of the finances. They took control of all of the staffers, who was hired, who was fired, all of the data, all of the analytics, the entire process of the primary. 1 year before the primaries began, the Democratic Party was owned lock, stock, and barrel by Hillary Clinton and her campaign. It was rigged. It was completely rigged. And as Donna Brazile lays out, Bernie Sanders never had a chance. Bernie Sanders never had a shot. because Hillary had guaranteed that she was going to win this election because she bought off the entire party. And not only did she buy off the entire party, so everything we had said about her was confirmed. It was stolen from Bernie. But now she also admits in her book what we were saying the whole time during the election. Hillary, her words, not mine, was quote-unquote sick. In fact, she said she was so sick and could barely get out of bed by 11 o'clock in the morning, had such low energy, had all kinds of health problems, that she seriously thought the party would do the best thing for the party was to drop Hillary in favor of Joe Biden. According to Donna Brazil, Hillary was so sick, she thought that Hillary couldn't even make it through, if she won, the first term. And so now, the very same media, the very same liberals and Democrats who lionized Donna Brazil, loved Donna Brazil, praised Donna Brazil. In fact, Stuffalophagus, George Stephanopoulos, had Donna Brazil on. In fact, she was a regular pundit and contributor for years on ABC News. Now Steffi doesn't like her. Now CNN, she worked for them for years. Remember she gave Hillary the questions before the debate with Bernie? She was just as deeply involved in the corruption as Hillary. Well, CNN now is turning on Donna Brazil. Now all of these liberals are smearing Donna Brazil. Now she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's jealous. She has a personal animosity against Hillary Rotten. This is a symptom of a long simmering feud between Donna Brazil and Hillary Rotten Clinton. In other words, when you don't have the facts, you don't have the evidence, you don't have the truth, motive. Ad hominem, ad hominem, ad hominem. Just smear. Now, all of a sudden, they just made this thing up, that there was some kind of a feud between Donna Brazil and Hillary Clinton. They just made it up. In other words, trash your motives because you don't have the facts and the evidence. And so now the Clinton campaign, or former heads of the Clinton campaign, are now trashing Donna Brazil, saying that she has betrayed Hillary and that she should just shut up, that she's doing this out of jealousy, envy, and resentment against Madam Hillary. And so there was Steffi Stuffalophagus on ABC News this week, go right after Donna Brazil, say, well, what do you say? You're just writing this to line your own pockets? And because deep down, you just have a grudge against Hillary. You know, it's not that she bought the party and rigged the race. It's because you just don't like Hillary. Listen to Donna Brazil's response.
I'm not on the payroll, George. I care about my country. I care about our democracy. And I say go to hell because why am I supposed to be the only person that is unable to tell my story? Now, I've heard a lot of tell me various things as well, but here's what they don't know. They don't know what it was like to be over at the DNC during this hacking. They don't know what it's like to bury a child. I did, Seth Rich. They don't know what it's like to protect the staff from further harassment. They don't know what it's like because the high command of Brooklyn, the people who were making the decisions, even for the DNC, they didn't come and work with us. They told us to shut up and basically let them win the election. And when we tried to intervene, we had to spend money we raised to try to help them win. And that was my job as chair of the party.
She's right. They should go to hell. I can't believe I'm agreeing with Donna Brazil, but yeah, go to hell. And, you know, the hypocrisy of the media, like how stupid do they think we are? You have her on for 15 years as the voice of the Democratic Party, as the voice of common sense and reason and liberalism. And here's this polished, accomplished African-American woman, yada, yada, yada. And now she writes an expose, a tell-all memoir about Hillary Clinton. And all of a sudden now, shut up. All of a sudden now, she's just a bitter, scorned woman. All of a sudden now, it's because of a feud against Hillary. So, was she not a doyenne of the Democratic Party? Was she or wasn't she? Because if she was, you see, now they've been hoisted in their own petard. Now they don't know how to go after Donna Brazile. You've got an experienced African-American liberal woman who has blown the whistle on Hillary Clinton. And the government media complex, they don't know what to do. Because the facts are the facts are the facts. Hillary Clinton rigged the nomination. Hillary Clinton illegally bought the Democratic Party. Hillary Clinton stole the primary from Bernie. And this blows up their entire narrative of Hillary the victim. In fact, she doesn't even have grounds anymore to complain about Putin supposedly aligning himself with Trump. Because Hillary should never have been the candidate against Trump to begin with. She stole it. If I'm Donna Brazile, just keep exposing. Because I'm telling you, sunshine is the best disinfectant. And the Clinton crime family has to go to jail. The sooner, the better. 617-266-6868, double-barreled question. Is it time to fire Robert Mueller? And now Donna Brazile blows the lid off Hillary Clinton. Will Donna Brazile's expose finally lead to a special investigation, a special counsel of Hillary? 617-266-6868. Your calls next. Paul in Dorchester, you're up next. Go ahead, Paul.
Jeff, Jeff. The way you put that, you're scaring me. Forget Rand Paul. It's Donna Brazile that needs protection. It's Donna Brazile that needs the double-barrel shotgun and let off 2 shots on her back porch, just like our former vice president said. It's crazy, Jeff. She's dealing with a crime syndicate family that people end up murder-suicide, but cleaning their guns. So she needs to watch out. That wasn't my first point, Jeff. My other point is these lobbyists never fully registered their financials, regardless if it's Manafort on the Republican side or Podesta on the Democratic side. Jeff, whatever Mueller decide to do, what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. So if he judges Manafort the same way, he's going to have to judge Podesta the same way. So be it.
Bingo. Paul, brilliant. Look, that's it. If he goes after Manafort and Mike Flynn for all of this money laundering and illicit lobbying on behalf of foreign powers, you got to go after the Podestas. John and Tony Podesta. And remember, all roads from Russia lead to Hillary Clinton through the Podesta group. So we're now going to find out what Robert Mueller's made of. If he doesn't go after the Podestas, then this whole investigation is a complete sham. Doug in New Hampshire. Go ahead, Doug.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Doug?
Oh, good. Jeff, I'm just wondering, where are all the Republican, people backing this party and demanding a change? I don't understand how everything can be so one-sided for so long. I mean, you got Comey goes on trial after Trump just took office, blatantly lying on the stand. There's no charges brought. You got Hillary with the uranium one deal. All these facts that have come out, nothing done. You got all this stuff against all these Democratic Party people, and we're still searching for Russia collusion. I don't get it.
Because, Doug, I'll tell you, look, it's very hard for people to, because you're right, Doug, your question is dead on. Look, as someone who was in Washington for over 10 years, it's hard to explain this, but it's a completely liberal city. And what I mean by that is the media is liberal, obviously, but the government bureaucrats, the civil service employees, the agencies, the massive bureaucracy, it's overwhelmingly liberal. And the two big papers are the Washington Post and the New York Times. And up on the Hill, they are obsessed with their image in the Washington Post and the Liberal and the New York Times. And then I think the real cancer are the big lobbying groups. And these are for very powerful special interests, for very powerful multinational corporations, and they are overwhelmingly socially liberal as well. So If you're up in Washington, D.C., you are in enemy-occupied territory. You're always on defense. If you're a conservative, you're perpetually on defense. And so if you want to make money, if you want to cash in, as they say, if you want to, make millions and millions and millions of dollars, you got to play the game. It's a Democrat city through and through. What should tell you everything is that in the last election, Trump only got 4% of the vote. 4. That shows you how deeply entrenched liberal interests are in Washington. That's why Republicans are afraid to speak out, and conservatives are always on the run. And that's why they fear Trump. Because for the first time since Reagan, we have a fighter and a warrior who's going to put not the special interests, but America first. Okay, the absolute latest on the Texas massacre. Let's take it now to Evan Heidenrich in the newsroom. An unbelievable story that frankly could only happen in the People's Republic of Massachusetts. To everybody, Kuhner country, especially parents, grandparents, children. If you have children, you're going to want to listen now to this segment. The Massachusetts State Senate has now passed a law, or at least a change to the law, regarding having consensual sex with a minor. As you know, in Massachusetts, the law is the age of consent is 16 years of age between a minor and an adult. They have now changed it. And the changes are going to blow your mind. Joining me now to discuss it is the president of the Massachusetts Family Institute, the man who has been heroically leading the charge against these changes in the Massachusetts Senate, Andrew Beckwith. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the Kuhner Report.
Jeff, thank you for having me once again, especially where it seems like every time you have me on and we're talking about what the state legislature is doing, you're putting your FCC license at risk because of the subject matter.
It's Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, it really is, Andrew. So, look, it's a family show. You know this better than I do. We got parents,
right.
Children in the car. But in the best terminology that you can, and please, everybody, you need to listen to this. These are your children and your grandchildren. What are the Moonbats up on Beacon Hill planning now regarding the age of consent?
Right. Well, fortunately, at this point, it's just the state Senate, so the law hasn't been changed yet. It's just this criminal justice reform omnibus bill that's working its way through the legislature. It got passed through the Senate on October 27th. And what they did is they're tinkering with the statutory rape law, which, under current law, any type of sexual intercourse with a child under 16, so 15 and younger, is sort of by definition rape. You don't have to prove lack of consent or use of force or anything like that. It communicates that, look, children are off limits when it comes to sexual predators. But they're tinkering with that and inserting sort of age exemptions known as Romeo and Juliet laws. So, maybe it'd be okay for a 14-year-old or a 13-year-old to engage in this activity with someone who's 2 or 3 years older. But in doing all that, they also took out language from the existing law in the latest version of the bill that eventually got passed. And that language was unnatural sexual intercourse. And that language is very important because without that language in the law, prohibiting that type of contact between adults and children, the Senate version that was passed, if it became law, would say that basically any type of sex other than the procreative act, let's put it that way, any other type of sex act would not be statutory rape if it occurred between an adult and a child.
Oh, my God. So, Andrew, look, I don't want to make it too graphic. I'm going to keep it very clean. Yeah. But Monica Lewinsky, okay, Bill Clinton. You catch my meaning? Problem. Or let's say what homosexuals, are known, to do in terms of their sexual relationship. If I was to engage in one of those types of acts with a 15 or 14 or 13-year-old, that's okay.
Right. Yeah, if it's 14 or 15 and it's consensual, no problem whatsoever. If it's under 14, then it would still be a sexual assault. But the penalties for that are much less than they are for rape.
That is incredible.
So it's loosening up the whole, child sexual exploitation legal framework, and essentially it's as if the legislation were drafted by NAMBLA, frankly, the North American Man Boy Love Association.
Now, why? I'm just curious. Why? Okay, who's the person driving this, and who's the sponsor of this, and why? What is the reason for this?
Excellent questions. Senator Spilka was the sponsor behind the initial draft of this provision of legislation, but her initial draft had the term unnatural sexual intercourse in it, so it didn't change that. And we don't know. We've been asking, who made the change and why. And Senator Brownsberger, who I think is the chair of the committee that made the change, doesn't seem to have an answer. He said in an article in the New Boston Post, which if you go to the New Boston Post, you can find it, he's quoted as saying he thinks maybe it was legislative aid. So they either don't know or don't want to say. But when this criminal omnibus bill, and it's like 120 plus pages, when it went into the Senate Ways and Means Committee on October, I think it was 2nd, it still had that language on natural sexual intercourse in it. But when it came out on October 19th, that language had been removed. So somewhere in the Senate Ways and Means Committee, someone decided to take out that term. We don't know who it was, and we don't know why, but it got passed. And it was passed at about 1:30 in the morning on Friday, October 27th, at one of these midnight sessions where they're rushing to get through all these amendments and pass this omnibus reform legislation. But again, it's 100 and plus something pages, and the vote, I think, was 27-10, 27-4, and 10 against. So you've got 27 Massachusetts state senators who either knowingly voted to decriminalize all kinds of sex with children, or they don't know what they're passing.
Well, I mean, basically,
either one of those options are pretty disturbing.
Andrew, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but they essentially voted to decriminalize child rape. Am I wrong?
Child statutory rape.
Yeah, child statutory rape. Forgive me. They voted to decriminalize child statutory rape.
Right. Yeah, the majority of it, you have to put a 14-year-old on the stand and have that 14-year-old testify that there was a lack of consent. Whereas now, sex with a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old is just off limits, period.
Honestly, you want to talk about a war on children? They always go on about children, the children.
Right.
This is literally a war on our children, and it's being waged by the Democrats up on Beacon Hill. Andrew, look, this is beyond disgusting. This is completely perverted. This is sickening. Our children should definitely be hands off. I should not be allowed to have non-procreative sex with a 15 or 14-year-old girl. To me, these are some of these taboos in society you just don't cross. What can people do to change this and have it back to the way it used to be? Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. What was wrong with the sexual consent laws that has to be changed? So what can people do right now to call their state senator? What can they do to get this thing reversed?
Right. Well, the good news is we just found out today, State House News is reporting that the House version, of course, you have to pass the bill through both the Senate and the House and get it signed by the governor before it actually changes the law. But the House version doesn't even touch the age of consent or child rape. So I think, once you brought attention to what the Senate was doing and how crazy that was, the House decided we're not even touching it. So I would encourage people to, call their state representative or call the governor's office and say, look, we don't want to touch the child rape statute at all. Like you said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. The Massachusetts Association of District Attorneys also put out a letter with their take on this whole criminal justice reform bill, and they said there's no need to change the child rape statute or the age of consent laws. So it looks like it's trending in that direction. It's still good for people to call the representatives, call the governor's office, say don't change the child rape laws, don't make it easier. But the good news is it looks like common sense has prevailed for now, but it's still very disturbing that it got passed in the Senate.
Oh, it's sickening. It's really sickening. All right, so Andrew, what you're saying is everybody should call their state rep, their state senator, Governor Baker's office and say we do not want the child statutory rape laws changed at all.
At all. That's exactly right. And if they should call their senators, and if their senator voted for this bill, they should ask them, did you, A, either want to make it okay for various forms of child sex acts with adults, or B, not know what you're passing, and hold them accountable? You shouldn't be passing 100-plus page bills at 1:30 in the morning, particularly when we're dealing with sensitive topics like child statutory rape.
Andrew, is there a place that people can go to where they can see the 27-10 vote, who voted for it and who voted against it?
You can probably find it on the Massachusetts Legislature website, but we'll try and get it up on our website in the next hour or so.
Okay, could you please do that? Because this audience is a very active audience, a very proactive audience, and so I know they're going to call these state senators. If I know it's a lot of work for you guys, but if you can put it up on your website, people will go and they will make those calls. Believe me, they will make those calls.
Sounds good. A great audience, Jeff. I'm happy to talk to him.
We have been talking with the president of the Massachusetts Family Institute, really doing the Lord's work on this issue, Andrew Beckwith. Andrew, keep up the good fight, brother.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, take care, Andrew. 617-266-6868. See, if I said it, you wouldn't have believed me. So now the state Senate, in a 27-10 vote, passed a budget, or an omnibus criminal justice bill that would allow for child statutory rape till the age of 14. An adult could have sex, consensual sex, with a 15 or a 14-year-old, and it would no longer be a criminal act in Massachusetts. They are trying to decriminalize child statutory rape. My friends, believe me, we can talk about taxes. We can talk about illegals. We can talk about sanctuary cities. We can talk about anything you want to talk about. But when we're getting into having sex between adults and 14 and 15-year-old kids, this is truly, it's sickening. It's madness. It's Sodom and Gomorrah. No child rape laws should be decriminalized. Absolutely not. 617-266-6868. Call your state rep. Call your state senator. Call Governor Charlie Faker and say, on this one, you cross our red line at your peril. 2:51 here on the great WRKO. Okay, I'm just trying to fend off now the pedophiles. That's it now. They're going to take our money. They're taking over our cities. We've got illegals pouring in. Now I'm just trying to hold the line against the pedophiles. Okay? And I'm the extremist, by the way. But let that go. Okay, tomorrow, big elections here in Massachusetts, local elections in particular. Please, everybody, you need to get informed and vote. It is very important to vote. And one of the big races is going to be in Salem. And as you know, Moonbat Mayor Kim Driscoll is trying to get another term in office to basically finish off Salem, to completely flood it with third world illegal immigrants. So, number one, on the ballot tomorrow, there will be a question about whether Salem should go sanctuary city. You need to go out and vote niet. No. Moreover, Kim Driscoll herself. So, she's now up against Paul Prevey. I'm urging everybody, please, if you live in the Salem area, go out and vote for Paul Prevey against Kim Driscoll. And just to show you how sleazy and dirty and corrupt Kim Driscoll and her minions are, they've now been nailed handing out, listen to this, ballots, sample ballots, to people who do not speak English in the Salem community, obviously, wink, wink, illegals, instructing them how to vote in tomorrow's election. I have the sample ballot right in front of me. And so they're trying to show them this is exactly where you mark, the X or fill out the circle. And this is the counselor we want you to vote for. And remember, Kim Driscoll. You have to vote for Kim Driscoll. Who the hell hands out sample ballots several days before an election to tell people who can't speak English how they should vote. So obviously Driscoll is afraid that the legal citizens and residents of Salem are going to kick her fat rear end out of office. So she's already trying or plotting to steal it. Don't let her get away with it. Flood the polls tomorrow. Vote for Paul Prevey. Vote against the sanctuary bill. Now, to show you how sleazy her supporters have been, Brittany, as you know, wrote a brilliant column exposing Kim Driscoll and her agenda to transform Salem really into a third world hellhole and to transform Salem into a full sanctuary city. She was virulently attacked by Kim Driscoll's supporters. One of them sent out a tweet comparing Paul Prevey and other opponents of Kim Driscoll with white hoods on as the KKK. One of them is in fact the owner of Derby Joe Cafe in Salem. That's Derby Joe Cafe in Salem. When Brittany wrote her column exposing Kim Driscoll and opposing her drive for sanctuary status, this is what this loser posted. Where's that, on YouTube or Facebook? Okay, it was on his Facebook video, but the loser eventually deleted it. We had to clean up the cursing a little bit, but here's what he said on Facebook. Roll it, Brittany.
Yo, what up, Dan Crowther, coming to you live from outside the Derby Joe studios. This is more of a little serious post than usual. We've been catching some flack from some of the townies because of our sanctuary city stance, and maybe because I filmed a couple of videos telling the petitioners, the repeal petitioners, to go themselves. And then I called the author of an article from WRKO Radio a stupid idiot, and turns out she's from Salem, and so oops. Hey, just a quick question though, because I was looking at the demographic information for Salem, and it turns out the community's between 25 and 30% non-white. And I'm just wondering, among the anti-sanctuary city petitioners, how many of you aren't white? Because it seems to me like a white knights movement.
That's unbelievable. I mean, these are the kind of losers that back Kim Driscoll and obviously are her supporters. And she never condemned this, by the way. This was a big story in the local media in Salem. He went right after Brittany. He threatened Brittany. He wanted to take her off the air. He compared her to the KKK. He called her every freaking name in the book, and nothing. These are the kinds of people that Kim Driscoll, the kinds of thugs, the kinds of fanatics, the kind of low-life hacks that Kim Driscoll surrounds herself with. So please, if you're in Salem, go out and vote, because she's going to have the illegals voting, believe me, early and often. Furthermore, if you're in Lynn, do Lynn a favor and vote for Judy Kennedy against State Senator Tom McGee, Mr. Magoo. He wants to turn Lynn into a massive sanctuary city. In fact, he wants all of Massachusetts to be a sanctuary state. And he's the architect of the drive to load up the entire state with tolls. He wants them on 93. He wants tolls on 95, Route 1, Route 128, Route 2, Route 7. He wants to load up the entire state with tolls. Vote for Judy Kennedy tomorrow. She is the last thing standing between you and a third world banana city. It's basically Judy Kennedy or Guatemala. Take your pick. So we're going to be covering those, some of the big races. There's going to be a lot more. We're going to give you the latest tomorrow and on Wednesday. But please, I need all of you. Vote. Do not forget to vote in your local elections. They're going to impact you in many ways, even more than when you vote on the state or federal level. Brittany, I know you want to weigh in on this a little bit. So this guy who owns Derby Joe, is he still in business or?
Somehow he's still in business, yes, but I don't think he'll be in business for that long. Jeff, he's not even from Salem. He's from Northampton. So he's calling, the people who have lived in Salem all of their lives townies, if you caught that.
And racists.
And racists.
And white
supremacists. It's not just him. There are plenty of other business owners in Salem that are for Sanctuary City and have said nasty things about supporters for no against Sanctuary City. And the rhetoric that has been thrown around in Salem for the past couple of months has been absolutely disgusting. It's not the city that we grew up in, and this is just a feel-good ordinance, and it does nothing at all. So there's just vote no on it, and I just can't wait for this to be over and the rhetoric to stop and everyone can stop calling us KKK members and everything else has been really disgusting, and for the mayor to not condemn everything that has been said and done over the past 6 months. Of course she does.
Oh, she supports it. Look, let me ask you this. Is she one of the biggest losers you've ever met in your life? I would say to me, Kim Driscoll, if you're listening, you're one of the top 10 biggest losers I've ever met in my life. And that's saying something.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 3 o'clock.
Me, a cat, moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.